Hello and welcome to our podcast episode number 79, Eddie and Venom's Ultimate Showdown against the Bloodthirsty Carnage. I am Thomas, and as always, here with me, my very good friend Timothy. Today, we are going to talk about a film called Venom. Let There Be Carnage. As always, spoilers ahead. Venom. Let There Be Carnage is a 2021 American superhero film in which Eddie, Brock, and the alien symbiote Venom face serial killer Cletus Kasady after he becomes the host of an offshoot of Venom named Carnage. Timothy, did you enjoy Venom? Let There Be Carnage?
Well, Tom, I have to say that while it was certainly an entertaining film, I found myself somewhat disappointed. As a fan of Venom from his early days in the comics, I was hoping for more depth and complexity in the storytelling. The action sequences were well executed, but I felt they overshadowed any character development that could have taken place.
Oh, really? Well, I must say I enjoyed Venom. Let There Be Carnage quite a bit more than you did, Timothy. While it's true that the plot wasn't exactly groundbreaking, I found the film to be a fun and thrilling ride from start to finish. The chemistry between Tom Hardy and the CG Venom was fantastic, and the addition of Woody Harrelson as Cletus Kasady was an excellent choice in my opinion. But tell me, Timothy, what did you think about the performances of Michelle Williams and Naomi Harris as Eddie's love interests? Did they add anything meaningful to the story for you?
Well, Thomas, I have to admit that I wasn't overly impressed with the performances of Michael Williams and Naomi Harris as Eddie's love interests. While their characters served a purpose in driving the plot forward, they felt somewhat underdeveloped and one-dimensional to me. I found myself more invested in the dynamic between Eddie and Venom than any other relationship explored within the film. That being said, I did appreciate how their storylines tied into the overall theme of redemption and self-discovery that ran through Venom. Let There Be Carnage.
Interesting perspective, Timothy. Personally, I think Williams and Harris brought an unexpected depth to their roles, despite having limited screen time. Their characters' struggles with addiction and past traumas added a layer of complexity to the narrative that I found quite compelling. However, I agree that the relationship between Eddie and Venom was undoubtedly the heart of this film. The banter between them kept me constantly entertained while also revealing their evolving bond over time. As we discussed earlier, another aspect worth mentioning is Woody Harrelson's portrayal of Cletus Kasady, who becomes Carnage in the movie. I thought he brought a chilling intensity to the character that made him truly menacing and unpredictable. His backstory as a serial killer with a twisted sense of humor added an extra layer of intrigue to their confrontations on screen. So, Timothy, what did you think about Carnage's design in Venom? Let There Be Carnage. I thought they did an excellent job bringing the iconic look from the comics to life while also updating it for modern audiences. His powers seemed much more formidable than those of Venom, which made their final showdown all the more thrilling.
Well, Thomas, I have to say that while the design and powers of Carnage were certainly impressive, it was interesting to learn about some trivia surrounding his character in Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Did you know that the character of Cletus Kasady first appeared in
The Amazing Spider-Man 344 as a serial killer known as Carnage? His backstory involved being a patient at Ravencroft Institute where he came into contact with the Venom symbiote and ultimately bonded with it. This version of Carnage was much darker than the one we saw in Venom. Let There Be Carnage, as he derived pleasure from killing and had no moral compass whatsoever. In the film adaptation, they decided to take a different approach by introducing Kasady earlier on in the Eddie Brock storyline. This allowed for a more complex dynamic between the two characters and provided an opportunity for redemption for both of them. The decision to have Cassidy become Carnage after bonding with another symbiote Riot, instead of the original Venom symbiote, added an interesting twist to their confrontations as well. Overall, while some fans may have preferred a closer adaptation to the comics, I appreciate the creative liberties taken by the filmmakers in creating this unique version of Carnage for Venom. Let there be carnage.
That's an interesting perspective, Timothy. It certainly seems like they took some creative liberties with the source material when adapting Carnage for the film. Speaking of which, did you know that originally Tom Hardy was going to play both Eddie Brock and Venom in Venom? Let There Be Carnage. However, due to scheduling conflicts and concerns about the physical demands of playing two roles simultaneously, they ultimately decided against it. Instead, they opted to have Tom Hardy perform all of Venom's dialogue himself while using a body double for stunt work and motion capture sequences. The decision to go with this approach allowed them to maintain consistency in Venom's performance across the film, while still ensuring that Tom Hardy had enough time to focus on his role as Eddie Brock. Now, Thomas, since we're talking about differences between the original film and its sequel, I'd like to ask you this. What do you think was the biggest improvement they made in Venom? Let There Be Carnage compared to the first installment? Was it the action sequences, the character development, or something else entirely? That's an intriguing tidbit about Tom Hardy and his dual performance as Eddie Brock and Venom in Venom. Let There Be Carnage. I suppose it must have been quite the challenge for him to pull off both roles convincingly without becoming too exhausted. As for your question regarding improvements in the sequel, well, there are several aspects that I feel were strengthened compared to the original film. One area where I think Venom, Let There Be Carnage excelled was in its pacing and balance between action sequences and character development. The first installment felt rather rushed at times, trying to cram too much into a single movie. In contrast, this sequel takes its time exploring Eddie's relationship with Venom and their dynamic as they grow closer over the course of the story. Additionally, I appreciated how the filmmakers expanded upon Cletus Cassidy's backstory and his transformation into Carnage. The fact that he bonded with a different symbiote called Riot instead of the original Venom made him feel more unique and dangerous than just another incarnation of Venom himself. And last but not least, I thought Woody Harrelson did an outstanding job bringing Cletus to life on screen. With his chilling performance as a serial killer turned symbiote-infused monster, his character added a layer of menace that was missing from the first movie and helped elevate Venom. Let There Be Carnage into something truly special, in my opinion.
Yes, I can see your point about the pacing being better in Venom. Let There Be Carnage compared to its predecessor. The film seemed to have a more focused narrative that allowed it to explore each character's motivations and relationships in greater detail. It was also interesting how they chose to have Cletus Cassidy bond with a different symbiote than the original Venom, which added an extra layer of complexity to their confrontation. Speaking of complexity, I must say that Tom Hardy's dual performance as Eddie Brock in Venom was nothing short of remarkable. His ability to switch between both characters effortlessly while maintaining their distinct personalities was truly impressive. However, despite these improvements, there were still certain aspects of the film that left me wanting more. For instance, I found the final battle between Venom and Carnage to be somewhat underwhelming in terms of scale and intensity. The stakes felt lower compared to other superhero showdowns we've seen before, which made it less impactful for me as a viewer.
On another note,
I was also disappointed by the lack of exploration into Eddie Brock's journalistic background or his relationship with his ex-fiancée Anne Wayne, Considering how important these aspects were in the original comic books and even the first film, it felt like a missed opportunity to further flesh out their characters within this sequel.
That's an interesting perspective, Timothy. I can see why you might have been disappointed by the lack of focus on Eddie's journalistic career or his relationship with Anne weighing in Venom. Let There Be Carnage. However, I personally thought that the film did a good job balancing multiple storylines while still keeping the plot coherent and engaging throughout. As for the final battle between Venom and Carnage, I agree that it could have been more intense, but I still found their confrontation to be visually stunning and filled with memorable moments. For instance, when Venom uses his tentacles to restrain Carnage while Eddie tries to reason with him was a particularly standout scene for me. It showcased the unique dynamic between the two characters and how they are able to work together despite their differences. Overall, while there were certainly areas where Venom, Let There Be Carnage could have been improved upon, I believe that it is a solid entry into the Spider-Man universe and an enjoyable film in its own right.
Yes, I can see your point about the final battle between Venom and Carnage being visually stunning despite its lack of intensity. It was certainly a memorable scene that showcased the unique relationship between Eddie Brock and his symbiote partner. Moving on from this sequel, do you have any predictions for future installments in the Spider-Man universe, or perhaps even a standalone Venom trilogy?
That's an interesting question, Timothy. Personally, I would love to see more exploration into the characters of Eddie, Brock, and Venom as they continue their journey together. There are still many unanswered questions about their relationship and how it will evolve over time. As for other characters in the Spider-Man universe, I'd be curious to see a film that focuses on Black Cat or Silver Sable, given their rich histories within the Marvel Comics canon. In terms of a potential Venom trilogy, I think it would be great if they could bring in additional symbiotes from other planets like Scream or Riot for future installments.
That's an interesting idea, Tom. I also think it would be fascinating to explore the potential relationships between other characters within the Spider-Man universe and Venom, such as a possible team-up or even an adversarial dynamic. Additionally, it might be intriguing to delve deeper into the symbiotes' origins and the reasons behind their actions. As for a standalone Venom trilogy, I believe that there is plenty of material in the comics to sustain multiple films while still maintaining freshness and originality.
Now moving back to Venom.
Let There Be Carnage itself. I think it's worth mentioning how well Tom Hardy embodies both Eddie Brock and his symbiotic alter ego. His portrayal of Venom is particularly noteworthy because he brings a unique blend of menace and humor to the character that really resonates with audiences. Similarly, Woody Harrelson's performance as Cletus Kasady Carnage adds an extra layer of complexity to the film. His ability to switch between his calm, collected demeanor as a serial killer and his unhinged, violent persona when bonded with the symbiote is truly chilling. On the topic of characters, I think one aspect that was handled particularly well in Venom, Let There Be Carnage, was the development of Naomi Harris's character Shriek. While she starts off as a meek and vulnerable individual, she eventually evolves into a powerful antagonist capable of holding her own against both Eddie Brock and Venom. Her backstory involving abuse at the hands of Cletus Kasady adds depth to her character while also providing an explanation for her unhinged behavior later in the film. In conclusion, I believe that Venom, Let There Be Carnage is a strong addition to both the Spider-Man universe and Tom Hardy's growing catalog of memorable roles. The film successfully balances action sequences with character development while introducing new elements, such as Shriek, and expanding upon existing ones like Eddie Brock's relationship with Venom. With so much potential for future installments within this franchise, I am eagerly anticipating what comes next in this exciting corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Agreed, Timothy. I think Naomi Harris did an excellent job portraying Shriek's transformation from a meek victim to a powerful antagonist. Her character arc was one of the most compelling aspects of Venom. Let there be carnage for me personally. And I completely agree with you about Tom Hardy's performance as both Eddie Brock and Venom. He truly embodied these characters and brought them to life on screen in a way that few actors could have done justice. Now, moving on to the cultural contribution of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I think it's worth discussing how this film represents an interesting shift in superhero movie narratives. While the first installment focused primarily on action and humor, the sequel delves deeper into themes such as trauma, abuse, and redemption. This more mature approach to storytelling adds layers of complexity to what could have been a straightforward superhero flick. Additionally, I think Venom, Let There Be Carnage, does an excellent job showcasing diverse characters like Shriek and Woody. Harrelson's Cletus Cassidy Carnage, without relying on harmful stereotypes or tokenism. Both characters are fleshed out with nuanced backstories that inform their motivations and actions throughout the film. This level of care and consideration for character development is something I hope to see more of in future installments within this franchise as well as other superhero properties. In closing, I believe that Venom, Let There Be Carnage not only provides an enjoyable viewing experience, but also contributes positively to the cultural landscape by offering a nuanced exploration of complex themes through compelling characters and engaging storytelling.
I completely agree with you, Thomas. The cultural contribution of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, cannot be overstated.
Not only does it offer an entertaining superhero movie experience, but also manages
to tackle some rather mature themes in a thoughtful and nuanced manner. This is particularly impressive given the genre's history of relying on action and humor at the expense of character development and depth. The film's ability to explore complex issues such as trauma abuse and redemption through its diverse cast of characters is a testament to the talents of both the writers and actors involved. Furthermore, I think one aspect that sets Venom, Let There Be Carnage apart from other superhero movies is its willingness to take risks with its narrative structure. While some might argue that the film's pacing could have been improved upon, I believe that these risks ultimately paid off by providing audiences with a more engaging and unpredictable viewing experience. The decision to focus on character development over mindless action sequences allowed for a deeper connection between the audience and the characters on screen. Another aspect worth mentioning is how Venom, Let There Be Carnage subverts traditional superhero movie tropes by flipping them on their head. For example, instead of having Eddie Brock initially reject his symbiotic alter ego Venom, he eventually comes to terms with it and learns to harness its power for good. This reversal not only adds depth to Eddie's character arc, but also provides an interesting commentary on the nature of heroism and personal growth. In conclusion, I believe that Venom, Let There Be Carnage is a shining example of how superhero movies can successfully blend entertainment with meaningful storytelling while also pushing boundaries within the genre. Its exploration of complex themes through diverse characters and unconventional narrative structure make it stand out among other entries in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. as we continue to discuss this film and its impact on popular culture, I am excited to see what future installments in both the Spider-Man universe and superhero genre as a whole have in store for audiences eager for more thought-provoking entertainment.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Timothy. The cultural impact of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, cannot be understated. Not only does it provide an entertaining superhero movie experience, but also manages to tackle complex themes in a thoughtful and nuanced manner. Its willingness to take risks with its narrative structure and subvert traditional tropes is something that sets it apart from other films within the genre. As we wrap up our discussion about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, I want to express my appreciation for this film's ability to balance action with character development while also exploring deeper themes such as trauma and redemption. It truly is a testament to the talents of both the writers and actors involved in bringing these characters to life on screen.
Thank you, Thomas. It was indeed an engaging discussion about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and its cultural impact. I am eagerly anticipating future installments within this franchise as other superhero properties that continue to push boundaries and provide captivating entertainment for audiences around the world. To our viewers, we hope you enjoyed our discussion about Venom, Let There Be Carnage as much as we did. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and like this video if you found it informative or engaging. We love hearing from our audience, and your feedback helps us improve our content for future episodes of Timothy and Thomas Film Nights. Until next time, keep watching, keep discussing, and most importantly, keep enjoying movies with us.